Ladies and gentlemen, we all want to get better at the game of chess, but it's not always easy to figure out exactly how to do that. Well, in today's video, I'm going to be showing you quite a fun example. Do let me know in the comments if you like it. I will be digging through a couple of subscriber games around 1000, 1100 ELO, and then I will be showing you games at 15, 1600 level ELO. We're going to be looking at the side-by-side difference of the opening stage, the middle game decision-making, poor tactical spotting, good tactical spotting, defensive resourcefulness, and the ability to make a comeback in a game. And hopefully this will inspire you to improve your chess, whether you're 300, 800, 2300. If you're 2300, I don't really know why you're watching this, but maybe you want to go back in time and reminisce on the good old days, okay? So I have 4 games. So we're going to look at 2 games where subscribers lost. Then we're going to look at 2 games where subscribers didn't lose. And we're going to learn from all these games. Terrific. That sounds good, right? Nice way to learn, all right? And if, by the way, if you're watching this and you're like 600, you're like, oh my God, like I really gotta step my game up. Yeah, you do. You do. No disrespect, but you do. Okay, so this very first game, subscriber is playing with the white pieces and is 1070. And our opening actually can take a pause on move 3. It's very common at low elo that people try to play very simple, very straightforward type of stuff, and that they got in like a beginner video, and this is all fine, but they're not actually digging into the intricacies of the position. Essentially, what black is doing is trying to avoid the fried liver, which you don't have to avoid. You also don't have to play h6, you can play bishop c5. You can play bishop c5 before you play knight f6. The move h6 is seldom seen at intermediate level. I'm sure you faced it. But frequently, the opening at this level is just kind of this weird e4, e5, completely symmetrical type of thing, which is fine, but in chess, you should be striving to get some sort of advantage, at least early in the game. And now, of course, black should be trying to develop and castle, but black immediately rushes with the move bishop e6, which again is fine. Like, people, for the most part, like to do stuff like this. So far, so good. I wouldn't say anything is terrible, but I will say that again, you should try to minimize the amount of completely symmetrical king's pawn positions that you are playing. Just me telling you this as a chess coach. Once you get to around 1000, 1100, because you're good enough to learn ways to put pressure on opponents, like play the Ponziani, or play the Scotch, or play the Vienna on the second move, right? Or you have to know how to punish h6, and the best way to punish h6 is to play for d4 as fast as possible. Listen. Many grandmasters would be playing this if it was actually good. It's not good. White really should rush with this move. But okay, so far so good. Trying to play, but see, like, you just played pawn to c3, right? You played c3 because you're trying to go d4. That's the whole idea of this entire thing. And you spend 26 seconds, right? So the opening, the understanding of the opening is just not quite there. Is it a bad move? No. For long-term development, though, that's not a good move. d5, that's a pretty decent move by black. And now black castles. I mean, I really can't hate this at all. Bishop e3 is not an unreasonable move. I don't even dislike rook d1, although I will say an intermediate player at this point would go opposite side castling. I should play b4, and then I should play a4, and this is the way you play opposite side castling positions. 1500s just know a little bit more, like alarm bells go off in their head. Every position is not a mystery. Opposite side castling means center benefits, if it's closed, like white wants something like this. Look at white's advantage now, up to plus 1.6. In this position, white's advantage is only 0.8, 0.7. If you just trade, it doubles, which is crazy because what it means is the center is locked, and now white can start firing away over here, right? So it's just very interesting. One pawn trade can double in evaluation, and white just never, white just plays on the wrong side of the board. White, plays rook d1 and then plays d4. 1 second on the move d4, right? So just not understanding like the demands of the position, just sort of playing moves and seeing what happens. And a lot of this is exactly that. For example, in this position, you can take on e4 because what happens if you don't? What happens if you don't is that you blunder a fork. And a lot of 1000 level chess is getting hit with a move and going, oh man, I didn't see that. Grandmasters don't play like that. And 15, 1600s also don't play like that. You have to anticipate what's going to happen. You can't just then go, oh, rats, I missed that move. Black had to think, where's the maximum danger in the position? It's right here. And now we have a queen trade, and white is up a bishop. White is just purely up a bishop. Now, the way you win this game is you bring most of your pieces out, you trade down, and you win an endgame. Or you somehow deliver a checkmate. That's a terrible move. So black spent 3 seconds on this move. No 1500 on planet Earth would play knight takes bishop. Not a single one. Because you're losing. I mean, okay, maybe there was one, right? I shouldn't say 0%. This is just terrible decision making. And now white, again, just not understanding the demands of the position. The demands of the position are to play something like knight h4, trade the rooks, infiltrate, win the endgame. You're up a full knight. You have everything the same except you're up a full knight. It gets a little bit crazier because black actually trades both rooks. No 1500 on planet Earth plays knight takes bishop. No 15. This is just craziness. This is just an easy win for white. But you might remember that might not be the result. If I'm playing with white here, I'm going knight f3, knight e5. I'm not even thinking about it. I'm gonna make sure I can trade the knights. Don't push your pawns forward in the endgame like a crazy person. Oh my goodness. What? What? How does that even happen? What is this? King f4. Oh no. Take it 2 times. Take it 2 times. Very nice. Now, you gotta be careful here. You gotta use your knight. You can't just get into a race. You never know what's gonna happen. You are completely winning here. King e5, okay. King e6, okay. Still good. Now you gotta bring the knight back. You can't stop the pawn with the king. Now white tries something completely ridiculous with 5.5 minutes on the clock. You've seen the decisions thus far. Now white decides, I'm gonna get into a race with 5 minutes. And loses the race. Loses the race, and now black has a queen. And I mean, now black's chances to save this game have gone up dramatically. Queen a2 check. Queen takes g2. And white hangs the queen with 5 minutes on the clock. White plays the move queen a8 check in 3 seconds and hangs the queen. That is inexcusable. That is completely inexcusable. But you've seen now throughout this game the bad decisions made by both the players. Right? White resigned because they are going to lose this. By the way, don't resign. At 1000 level, why resign? You're not proving you're special or anything like that. Make them checkmate you. You both set out to play a 10-minute game of chess. You can resign, of course. I'm just saying they might stalemate you. You really never know. This is inexcusable type of stuff. Now, the opening, little things like pawn to h6, pawn to d4, right? You're going to see more sophisticated openings at the 1500 level. But white just not even playing d4, right? And then attacking on the wrong side of the board. But still getting an okay position, just not playing their best. Black, total blunder. And then insane decision-making by black. I'm down material, so trading all the way down to the bare bones. This is craziness. And white, for no reason at all, getting into a pawn race. You can calculate this out. You can calculate this out. There's no need. Just bring the knight back. Just bring the knight back. Knight e5, knight c4 check, and you'll just give up the knight, and that's it. Just d4, and the pawn's going. The knight will sack itself. Very simple. Keep control of the position. 1000s do not keep control of the position, and it ends up with a massive blunder. Now, how does a 1500 level player lose a game of chess? Just lose a game of chess, okay? First, Gotham cracks his neck, and maybe you get an ad break. I don't know. d4. First of all, we have a Grunfeld. A 1460 playing the Grunfeld defense, which is a very sophisticated opening. With a twist. This is incorrect. You're supposed to, in the Grunfeld, wait for your opponent to play knight c3. Why? Because if your opponent plays knight c3, after this exchange, the knight can take the knight. Why is that important? Because if the knight cannot take the knight, you're going to get what happens in this game, which is the pawns take the center. This is not the way the Grunfeld is played. So at 1500, people are playing more sophisticated openings, but it's a little bit of a false playing. They don't actually know what they're doing. So, but they're doing their best. The problem with the way that black has handled this is they have given white an absolutely perfect position. Now, what should white do right here? What is black's next move? White is on autopilot. They just play castle. But in this position, you got to think black is going to play bishop g4. So I have to play h3. But okay, I love this. Look at this. Look, you see how white is keeping control of the position in the opening and has a slight advantage? And now white kicks the knight out of the way, defends their knight, and pressures the b7. This is incredible. White is building behind each move. Okay, knight c6. Now white plays rook e1, decent improving move. Now black has a lot of pressure on the center here. And white plays queen d3, which is a mistake. It's a mistake. Black should play bishop takes knight and take on d4. But black gets a little distracted. Okay, white goes back. Black plays c6. But every move is still building on the other. This is building a wall for the bishop and securing control over d5. So far, every move makes sense. Like, no side is taking massive risk. There is not a very clear, obvious plan to an advantage. Black plays knight d5. White doesn't even trade. Most 1000s here would take the knight. White does something called keeping the tension. Just keeping the tension. Not overcommitting. Black can't really do a whole lot. Black does do a whole lot here by playing f5. That is a massive overcommitment. Now an interesting decision. Do you play en passant or do you come back? White decides to come back, sacrificing the damage to their structure, but getting a very, very big center. Black immediately takes the center. White immediately kicks the knight out. And after queen b6, white tries to set a little trap. But it doesn't quite work, because white's idea here is to play c5, discover check. But there's just knight d5. So 1500 sometimes do try to get creative like this, but they forget, you know, it's hard to visualize. The pawn no longer covers that square. But now both sides are having a massive blind spot. Both sides are having a total blind spot to this until now. And that's all it takes. White blunders the pawn on d4 as a result of hitting the knight out of the center. All white did in this game in about 25 moves was forget that a pawn push stopped guarding a center pawn. And now black is a pawn up. That's it. White goes here. Black doesn't take the second pawn. Black goes back, and now white gets a big center. And now white is back in the game. White is actually really, really confidently fighting back. White is down a pawn. White blundered the pawn. White's not even worse. So now we see how 1500 level players keep control. They keep control of the game. And what I would have liked to see, I want white to start a counterattack. I want white to start firing away out here. White is limiting the mobility of the black pieces. These pieces, in fact, I would say these 4 pieces are just staring into nothing. So white, despite losing the pawn and making a mistake, is rebounding immediately. And by the way, you can rebound on the clock, but white is not doing that in this game. Look at white starting a counterattack. Black, excellent. Excellent. Pressure on the position from multiple angles. Queen c2. Look at this. The queen stepped away to hit the knight. But now this queen doesn't have to defend the knight. The queen could sneak in here. A very sneaky move. And the idea is that the bishops are lambs for slaughter. Black now breaks into the position and is, but white tries to strike back. Black is up 2 pawns, but the game keeps going. I mean, queen takes a7, bishop e5. In this position, white could trade the bishops, but instead is trying to create counterplay, is just counterattacking like crazy. Queen b7. This is hardly over. Queen c8 passive. Queen f7, no trade. Rook d7. Now white finds the very clutch. The bishop is trapped, but bishop f6 on the board. Look at this. Rook g7 self-pinning. And now, unfortunately, white gets a little bit desperate. Black was playing a little bit more responsibly on time, and white tries to bulldoze into the position, but white is not the one calling the shots. It's like in a Breaking Bad or one of those series or movies, let's say, where the person who tries to call the shots against the mafia boss isn't in the position to call the shots. You're just not in the position to call the shots here. Because yes, you're threatening mate, but what you have done is I don't have to play defense. You know why I don't have to play defense? Because I can go for your king. That's exactly what black does. Queen c6, queen c1, bleeds some time off the clock, and unfortunately, white walks into their death. You simplify, and now it's clean. You see? No drama. Save the drama for your llama, and it's going to be checkmate in a few moves. Rook to f6 mate. Black won this game by playing a bit more of a sophisticated opening than the last one that we saw. Yes, not playing it perfectly, but throughout the game, keeping full control of the position. Great control, creating a blockade in the center like this, and hammering away at white's center until white blundered a pawn, went back into their position. It wasn't a perfect game, but took advantage literally of the 2 things that white made a blunder about, and white did their best. All right, white did their best in this game, creating counterplay like out of nowhere, but black's position was very resilient, and there was just nothing to be done. I mean, you're down 2 pawns, and you're running into a brick wall, and this is coming straight down the other side. So, but white did a good job fighting back. Now, let's take a look at a 1000 game and a 1500 game that did not end in defeat. All right, 1000 level game once again. This time we have a Vienna. All right, and let's see what happens from the opening stage. I would say that white is pretty happy here. I mean, knight c6, like, you know, white is doing quite well. But again, the best move against bishop to b4, and those of you that have my e4 course, actually, you should know that the best move here is d4. Which is, again, one of these things like, as a 1000, it's hard to memorize every opening, but as long as you're getting a position from the opening where you have a decent, decent fighting chance, then life is good. This is excellent. Bishop g4, white plays castles, and now we have the move queen f6. Now, what do 1000s do in the opening all the time? First of all, they play e4, e5, symmetrical. Queen f6 played. White trades queens. Now, I don't blame white for trading queens, because if you don't trade the queens, black is going to do this. And that's very difficult, because you're like, wait a minute, take, now I'm going to lose this, now I'm going to lose it. So I don't blame you. I don't blame you for trading the queens, but it's not the best move. Why is it not the best move? Because if white does something, if black does something like this, you target the weaknesses. If he does something like this, you have ideas even like rook takes b7, with crazy sacrifices to the king, bishop a6, queen b5. I mean, it's like mate. I mean, it's literally mate on b7 on the next move. So if something like this happens, you can create an attack. After rook b1, b6, the light squares are super weak. Bishop b5, c takes d4. It's very difficult though, and I understand. I understand the decision to trade the queen, but you have to understand that you're not doing yourself any favors like here. And look at the next move, by the way. The next move is even worse. It's just taking. It's taking for no reason. Just no, like, the very simple, like, why did we do that? Now we have to move our bishop. Now we have damaged structure. Black has a very decent position. Okay, now, what's the next phase of the game for black? Castle, consolidate, bring the rooks to the center, and fight back. But no, black takes on e4 right away. Knight takes e4, which is a losing mistake. It's a losing mistake because you haven't castled yet. The knight is on e4, the knight is on e5, the king is in the center. So, rook e1, right, can hit both. That's exactly what happens. You lose this. f4. The knight is pinned to the king. You shouldn't be doing this much battle in the center of the board. f4. It's on the board. Misses. Puts the bishop there instead in 5 seconds of thought. And that's the thing. You all probably watch this sometimes and look at your games and look at these games and you're like, oh, this never happens in my game. It does. Of course it does. You just don't see it. Now black plays f6, white goes here, black gallops out of the position. By the way, even this position is good, because you can play bishop d2, and then play f4 again. But okay, rook e3 again, one mover, just a one mover. Knight goes out of the position. We pin, I don't hate this move at all. And now I love this. At no point in this position did black go, can white attack my pawn, my knight? Can white in any way attack my knight? If he goes rook b1 or c4, you can play c4. You cannot take this because it's pinned to the king, as a result of you taking the pawn way back here. So even though white misses some chances, black walks white by the hand. And now pawn to c4. Instead, you should have blocked the pin. You should have blocked the pin. You should have defended the knight and blocked the pin. You should have thought for a second, what is my opponent going to do to me? c4. Credit to white, it was found. And now you are completely winning. Now, it's an equal game. How is a 1000 supposed to play this game? Bring the king up and bring the rooks. It's the end game. You should not be so scared of bringing your king because white doesn't have any way to attack it. All right? Why should you not play that move? My opponent has pieces X, Y, Z. When I go there, this bishop is going to live on that square forever. Or rook d1. Bishop d5. And what does black do? Walk directly into the d file. Doesn't anticipate this. And now is down material. c4. All right. Bishop slides down. Rook takes. Now, rook e2. Defending the bishop. What should black always be thinking about? Does my opponent have a check? Does my opponent have a check? Does my opponent have a check? Black misses it. Bishop to f5. Game over. King f1. White was thinking, if I move my bishop, I'm going to lose my rook. Which is not true, because, by the way, you can even go here. And if your bishop gets taken, you take the rook. So first of all, you have this, but I mean, you have a check. I mean, it has to be the first thing you look for. You see how these one mover, no 1500 would overlook bishop f5. I just showed you a whole game of 1500s. b3. Now white plays bishop b1. Should black trade rooks? Honestly, for this level, probably not. Unless they see the follow-up, which is probably pushing these pawns. But now white can escape c2 with bishop f5 check and something like king to d3. Bishop f5 check and something like king to d3. So Rook d3 instead. Rook c8. And there it is. You block, good defense. b5. This should be an easy win. Should be an easy win. Why is it an easy win? Black has 4 pawns versus 3. That's the reason. The way you win this, you could actually advance. You could advance. This is still winning. You don't have to trade the rooks. You can advance the rook a little bit forward, like something like rook c5, because if you get your pawns connected, it's a completely winning position. King just walks over here. In the game, what happens is rook c3, which doesn't make any sense. Why would you play rook c3 in 2 seconds? Maybe it was a mouse slip, but why would you bring the pawn closer to its death? Why would you do that? Instead of that, you could have played something like rook c2, king c2, and king c6. And you're winning, because it's 2 passed pawns. It's just a win. It's an easy win. White will try to advance, you will push these pawns, and you're gonna win, because at some point you will walk over. For some reason, black brings the pawn a step closer, and now it's a draw. It's draw with correct play. King e5. What is the correct play? Get in front of the pawn. Yes, excellent. d4. You could play f3, g3. You could wait a little bit. You have to do it the right way. You know, you gotta make sure. All right, easy. f3 check, king d4, and now you wait with pawns. Instead, white allows this for no reason at all. Thinks it's an endgame, allows the king in, and now it's over because the king can just walk and take these pawns. Or you can play h5, fine. g4. The way I would win this position is I would play h4 and I would take the pawns. I would play h4, take. White's out of moves. Also, you can stalemate, force this, it's not stalemate, and make a queen, and it's mate. Instead of that, black, with 4 minutes on the clock, takes and plays king here. Completely abandons their pawn, takes here, and now this is a draw. King h3, king f3, g4, and the king just has to stay near the pawn. And that's it. And the game ends in a draw because if black takes on h2, white takes on g4. I mean, there was no pieces left on the board. There was 2 pawns each. The way black wins this is going here. Again, it's stalemate, but you queen and it's mate. Endgame problems. Trading all the pieces in the opening. A lot of small tactical blunders. There was like 4 to 5 different tactical blunders in this game. But that's what makes up a 1000 level game. Look at this 1500 level game. This is a great one to end on. This time we have a Catalan. Not all 1500s play like this, but I'm just saying the opening is very reasonable. Look how solid this is. Both sides playing. Black hasn't moved a single piece 2 times. Look at black. Every piece has gotten a turn. Beautiful development in the queen's pawn structure. White trying to expand over here. Black chopping in the center. White expands. Black goes here. I mean, everything's fine. Bishop c5. I don't love this move, but you know, I don't love this because there's no reason to give up the bishop. If I'm playing black here, I'll probably bring the bishop back. I mean, I gotta worry a little bit about a7. But I do this in a way where if I'm gonna allow knight c6, I'm not gonna immediately allow an avalanche. But am I really criticizing? I mean, I'm like Nicola. Okay, 1500s make mistakes because they trade too quickly. They play the move knight e5 and they just go, it's a fair trade, and I'm opening up my bishops, and it's not exactly a fair trade. Like, the move knight e5 is not necessary. You have to think, is my knight of a higher quality than that knight? At the 1500 level, the 2 1000 games I just looked at, that never happened at all. It was a lot of one movers, a lot of tactical mistakes. They trade everything, but they don't think at all. In this case, it's like, okay, this trade is really purely equal. This knight, of course, is of a higher quality. That knight's super passive. This knight has attacking possibilities, not right away. Could also go for mate. What is this knight doing? It literally has no forward moves. It's kind of clogging black's position. So the relief that black feels with this thing lifted, like an artery blockage. Of course, now black goes immediately backwards and pushes the bishop out and returns. And I love what white is doing here. Rook d1. Now, the person playing with black here, the subscriber, has to maintain this brick wall. They have to maintain it. Because, and what they should do here is probably move the queen off the center line. But they go here, which, you know, I don't blame them for. But now they have to live with the consequences of a very weak center. I mean, the d5 square is super, super weak. And white plays bishop g5, and it looks like life is good. But it's not really that good, because actually here there's bishop f2. And this tactic can arise when the king is the only thing defending, and then the knight can venture out, and the queen takes the thing. So 3 criteria have to be met. Only the king is guarding this pawn, a knight check is possible, and the knight is safe, and the queen can take the bishop for free. Those 3 things have to be met. If one of those 3 is not met, this thing can't happen. But black misses that. Black is thinking a little bit too defensively. I'm not even sure what black is. Black plays h6. And now spots this, but plays hope chess. What black calculated was, this is the difference between a 1500 and 1000. Black actually saw that the pawn was hanging. Black calculated bishop f6, queen f6, bishop d5, queen f2, and then they would move the rook. And then they went h6. But what they made a mistake of is they proved themselves right. At no point did they stop and ask, what if that doesn't happen? What if one of those moves doesn't happen? An 1100 would have simply just blundered the d5 pawn. An 1100 might even blunder the rook, you know, by the bishop. Black saw this, but never asked, what about e3? And now black is in trouble because they don't have this. They overcommitted. This pawn is going to die. It has 2 things staring at it, and it can't move. And now, in trying to defend themselves, black misses the other resource. Oops, you blundered. It's not the first mistake that kills you. It's the second mistake that oftentimes kills you in chess because you overreact, and now you're going to lose a bishop. But black sacrifices the bishop for the pawn, trying to open up white's king, and plays e4. If I'm playing with white here, what I do is I blockade the center and I try to trade the queens. With no queen on the board, black will never, ever, ever survive because the queen is the most powerful piece. White goes here and black plays good defense. Now white plays rook e1. This is very passive, very passive. I understand now. I love black's next move. Not sitting around rook e6. Do you know what the idea is? It's a rook lift. What should white do here? Open up the position. Shred the defenses of the center and get in. Instead, white plays rook a2. What is this? Suddenly, it's black calling the shots. White plays another very reactive move. But why are you attacking a rook to get it closer to your king? Now the rook has an entire open file. And before you know it, black is knocking on the door. And before you know it, black is arriving and black is winning. In the span of 5 moves, white did a lot of good in this game, but they had no killer instinct. They did not know when they had to act. They completely misunderestimated black's position. And black goes from winning to literally mating white. Queen e1, rook h6, and it's mate in the corner of the board. How did that even happen? How did white just go from up a bishop to down a rook and checkmate it in embarrassing fashion in the corner of the board? Well, I'll tell you, it all started with black overreacting to white's attack on d5, losing the bishop, but doing something really smart. A couple of really good decisions in a row. Giving up the bishop to open up the position, locking out that bishop, completely negating what the opponent wants. Just camping out a few pieces and realizing I can sit around and wait to lose, or I can bring my rooks and do this. And another major reason that black won this game is because of this move. You see, black could have just played something like rook f6, but then white would have played rook a2, rook f2. Black realized right away they needed to bring everybody. Rook here, h5, beautiful knocking on the door. And this shows you the difference. The 1500s control the game with tiny nuances, making the right exchange, making the right pawn break, underestimating their opponent's resources and offensive capabilities. The 1000s, it's chaos. It's chaos constantly. There are 10 missed opportunities collectively in every game. If you can minimize that number down, if you can start pausing, hitting the pause button on quick exchanges, if you can spot the tactical opportunities when they present themselves, you have to get good at that at 1000 because those chances go away as you go higher and higher up the rating ladder. It's all there for you. It's all there for the taking, but you see the difference. The 1500s play really, really well. And I haven't even done 2000. Let me know if you want me to do 1500 versus 2000, and I'll see you in the next video. Get out of here.